Hey, John Mayfield here for Global Real Estate School. We are talking about 11 topics that you're going to see on the real estate examination, but more importantly, how to really approach those 11 topics to help you pass the exam. So let's get right into it. We just wrapped up with number 6, which we were talking about some of the property disclosures, and I encouraged you to go over to my website on YouTube. I keep saying my website, but I actually have those tied in on my website. I could show you how to access those as well. But if you go to YouTube, go in and search for seller's disclosure or search for lead-based paint. And again, you need to go into Global Real Estate School's YouTube channel. And there's a little button over to the side, a little search button to search videos on this channel. Type in anything like lead-based paint, environmental, do not call, and you'll get to those videos and you'll see some great information that really address a lot of those questions you will see on the real estate examination. Now, we're on section 7, topic 7, and that is on contracts. So, do you know what the difference between an executed and an executory contract? Executed contract, it's finished, it's all done. Executory contract, still lacking. Something's not quite finished yet. You'll probably see that on the exam. And, just remember, executed, it's done, it's finished, it's executed, right? Executory, still lacking something that needs to be done there. They want to know the difference between a valid contract, a contract that's void, a contract that's voidable. They love to give you those questions about somebody who's been drinking or those kinds of a minor, and they really want to try to test your knowledge there. Why they do that, I have no idea. We are not attorneys, right? It seems like those would be attorney questions, but anyway, the question they love to ask you is about the minor who buys a piece of real estate under the age of 18, and then the broker finds out, oh my gosh, that property's worth a lot of money. I'm going to go and try to say, hey, that transaction should be void because I want it back now. It's worth a lot more money than I thought it was. And that person was under the age of 18. They shouldn't have been able to buy it. They were a minor. Well, only the injured party can void that, has the right to void that contract. Is it voidable or not? And so, the minor may say, hey, no, I knew it was going to be worth a lot of money, so I'm not voiding this deal. I'm going through with it. However, if the minor wanted to void the contract, they could up and through the time they turned 18. Sometimes they use the word majority there, reaching majority. But they love those questions. They want to know, is a contract unenforceable? A listing agreement that's not signed is an example of an unenforceable contract. So you need to know those differences. Need to know about electronic signatures. I don't know if there's a lot of stuff on there regarding that, but there is a question about a bilateral contract versus a unilateral contract. You're going to see that on the exam. I almost can guarantee you, bilateral, there's two, both parties making agreements. Unilateral is only one promise that's being made. I want to make sure that's right, but I'm almost certain that's right. Sometimes you get so many of these questions that get thrown at you, but know the difference between a bilateral and a unilateral contract. And actually, I have my book right here, so I'm going to double check and just give you the definition from John Riley's book. Why not? He does a great job with his book, and I go to it whenever I have a question and whenever I'm kind of thinking, what's the exact way I should explain that? And so here we go. I'll just read this to you. A bilateral contract is a contract in which each party promises to perform an act in exchange for the other party's promise to perform. There we go. The usual real estate sales contract is an example of a bilateral contract in which the buyer and the seller exchange reciprocal promises, respectively, to buy and sell the property. Bilateral contract. Now, let's go over to unilateral contract. And the question that they love to ask you on the exam talks about an option. What is an option? Now, a unilateral contract is a contract in which one party makes an obligation to perform without receiving any return in express promise of performance from the other party. One party gets a promise in exchange for an act. That party is not obligated to perform on that promise unless the other party decides to act, okay? An example is an open listing contract where the seller agrees to pay a commission to the first broker who brings a ready, willing, and able buyer. Where the seller agrees to pay a commission to the first broker who brings that in, the contract actually is created by the performance of the act required of the promise. Now, an option in which the seller agrees to sell for a certain period of time at a set terms provided the buyer performs by paying the specific option price is also a unilateral contract. That question's been on the test. So now one down, 99 more to go, but I'm giving you a lot of stuff you're going to see on these videos, so you need to watch all of them, right? So we're in section 7 on contracts, bilateral versus unilateral contract. They're going to ask you that questions over that. And a reward is also an example of a universal contract. They get into time is of the essence. You know, you've got to act quickly. They love these questions on contracts about, counteroffers. Remember that an offer can be withdrawn anytime prior to the offer being accepted. I talked about that this week at a class I taught at Lake of the Ozarks, and a great question came up because one of the students had an offer come in from another agent, and his client made a counteroffer. He gave it to the other agent. He had not heard back from them. Another agent was at the property, said, I want to bring you a full price offer. I think it was cash, no contingencies. Do you have anything on it? And my person who's asking me this scenario said, so was it okay? What should I do in that situation, basically? And I said, all you have to do is call up the other agent. Hey, Tom, it's John at Mayfield. I just want to let you know we want to withdraw our counteroffer. Click. No, you wouldn't click, but you just withdraw the counteroffer, and you want to tell him that as soon as possible. If he says, well, I already have it signed, well, it's too late. You told him you withdrew the offer. Time is of the essence, should have called you back immediately and said, John, we've got an offer accepted. It's signed. That's where all that time is of the essence. So that's all part of this with contracts and contingency and when's an offer become binding and earnest money. So I think you're going to do fine on section 7 with contracts. Lots of stuff there, and you will definitely see some questions there. The next section, section 8, is leasing and property management. Know that a leasehold estate, also called a non-freehold estate. Leasehold estate, also called non-freehold, that's an example of a lease. So it could be a long-term lease for 99 years. It could just be a month-to-month lease. And so there are different types of estates, and again, we call those non-freehold estates. You could have an estate from period to period for a certain period of time. You could have an estate for years, tenancy for years. That type of lease has a definite ending date, okay? So, and there's no notice to be given on that. When the lease is up, you can just move out. If you signed a 1-year lease and it expires on May 31st, which is a few days from when I'm recording this, you don't have to give a 30-day notice you're moving out. Now, you need to read your lease because there could be specific things in there, but for the real estate exam, no notice is required on an estate for years or a tenancy for years. Estate from period to period is when you pay your month for 30 days. You can stay there for 30 days. Normally, there has to be some type of notice given. And then we have an estate at will. You can stay in the property till they begin building the new highway, and they come to shut the driveway off. You have to be out at that point, or you can stay until this period of time. That's an estate at will. You can stay at will. And then we have the lowest form of an estate, which is called a tenancy at sufferance, an estate at sufferance. And that's when you have a holdover tenant who's not paying their rent. And again, just read those questions carefully, and I think you can pick out if you know that they're just paying for a length of time, 1 month at a time. You have an estate from period to period. If they have a beginning date and an ending date, and they're planning to move out on the end of their lease, that's an estate at years. If there's some kind of, hey, you can stay there and lease it for a certain length of time, that would be an estate at will. And then if you see the lowest form of an estate or somebody who hasn't paid their rent, we call that a tenancy at sufferance, an estate at sufferance. Now, they probably will ask you what a license is. That may have been back there in the easement section as well, but I just want to remember or remind you that a license can be withdrawn at any time, okay? Sometimes they have these questions about hunting or parking a car, and if they can terminate it at any time, that would be a license, and that's different than an easement, which is recorded. By the way, easements, I should have mentioned a while back, run with the land. So if I remember that situation where I gave you an easement to go across my property and I'm the dominant estate, I'm the servient estate because I'm serving you. Remember, you're driving across my property. You're the dominant estate. So that's an example of an easement appurtenant, right? An easement in gross is when utility companies go across our property. But in our example, I'm the servient estate, you're the dominant estate, you have that easement across my property, that runs with the land. So if I sell my property, the new owner has to conform to that. If you sell your property, your new owner gets to take advantage and use the lease. Totally different than a license, so I want you to be sure and understand that. Lots of ADA and fair housing questions. Just trust me, you're going to have questions on fair housing. You cannot discriminate based on race, period. Know that. Block busting is when you try to entice homeowners to sell their property because you're scaring them to make them think people are moving in. It could be a race classification that they use in the question. It could be you're going into seniors neighborhoods and saying, hey, there's a bunch of people moving in with kids. That's still a form of block busting. Know what redlining is. That's where insurance companies and banks draw a map in an area and say, we're not going to make any loans in that area. Insurance companies have been guilty of redlining too, and they can fall in that, so you can't do that. Steering is when you're trying to steer people to specific neighborhoods because of their race or culture. You're going to see questions over fair housing. Now, I mentioned at the first of this video, I have done some great videos on these multiple choice questions, and they're challenging exams that you need to go check out. I'm going to throw my YouTube channel up there again. Go over there, subscribe, look for those. When I finish these 11 topics, I think I'm going to go back and go back through some of those, but you can find them on my channel, and I encourage you to look at those because they'll help you understand what you need to know to pass the test, okay? So dig around on there, just search for ADA, search for lead-based paint, any of those topics that environmental or EPA, and some of those will pop up and you'll be able to find those on the channel, okay? I'll see if I can't get Dan, my team member, to help put some links in down below these so you can read more about those as well. So all of that, ADA would be another one you'd want to search for as well. You can maybe find that. And then we have transfer of title. So they're going to talk about the difference between marketable title. They're going to talk about deeds and escrow, responsibilities, purpose of the deeds. You know, one of the things I just have you remember is a general warranty deed's the best type of deed that's out there. A quitclaim deed doesn't really have a lot of protection. It's just changing names and so forth. You might see a special warranty deed or something on there, but there could be a few questions regarding the transfer of ownership and title insurance, which is going to help ensure the title that there's no problem. Recording the deed, understand the difference between constructive notice and actual notice. Constructive notice is because you've recorded it at the courthouse and it gives the entire world notice of what's going on. Actual notice is what you come into contact with, what you actually know, and so forth. They will talk about foreclosures, and remember, real estate taxes get paid first at a foreclosure sale. They may have a question on there where they have a foreclosure and they go through and there's some money left over. Who gets it? The defaulting borrower, right? Know who the grantor is and who the grantee is. So you'll get into a lot of those types of questions as well. And some of the essential elements of a deed. Again, we talked about fair housing, landlord's rights and obligations. You're going to pass that exam on the first try. I know you are, because you're going to go over and you're going to watch a lot of the videos that right here on our YouTube channel, right? And you remember that if you just go over to Global Real Estate School on YouTube, you can find those. Let me show you very quickly. I'm going to go to the board and show you very quickly a great place where you can, let me add this up, and I'm going to go over to Global Real Estate School because you can find these videos I've been talking about. And so we're going to go to Global Real Estate School right here. And over on the right, Global Real Estate TV right there. You can go there. And notice I have all of the videos right here. And so we have some of our podcasts, lots of training ideas that you can go through and look at. But I've got some different study sessions. But I think you can actually click on any of these and you can watch. And then if you want to go out to our YouTube channel, just click on that. It will take you out here to our YouTube channel. And right over here is that little circle with a search bar. If you click search and you type in, let's just try ADA and see if we have anything that's under, here it is. ADA is for what? And these are some of the Americans with Disabilities. So you'll see lots of videos that I've done for those. So again, you can access them over at our website at Global Real Estate School, and just go over here to Global Real Estate TV. We've got some great resources over here as well. But anyway, I just wanted to show those to you. We're going to have an end card to take you to the next video. And we have one more series of our 11 topics you need to know to pass the real estate exam. So this was part 3. We've got 2 more important topics I need to tell you about to help you pass the real estate exam. Hey, as always, thank you so much for watching. My name's John Mayfield, the Real Estate Tech Guy. I hope you go out and make it just a great, wonderful, exciting, and glorious day. I'm grateful for you. Thank you so much. Reach out to me anytime you have questions or I can help, and be sure and watch the next video.